Hi, my name is Chef Michael Kanter. I have a couple places here. One place with a lot of things going on. Mostly I do cooking classes, although that's been sort of waylaid right now. So in the meantime, during this time of pandemic, I had already been making some stocks that I had made available to some of my customers, and unfortunately I have to call it bone broth because that's what people want to hear. And I expanded it to stocks, broths, soups, and then I added sandwiches. So my company, I have the Cooking His Books, which is my cooking class company, and then I have Broth Time, which is my sandwich, soup, and broth business. So today I'm making a video to support the Michener Museum and also just to do a nice collaborative effort with them and work with another local institution. So I'm gonna make two soups. I thought I'd make a cream of asparagus soup and I'd make a butternut squash lobster bisque. So I'm gonna make both those soups now. I have my pots on the stove, heating up. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil, just get that nice and warm. All right, first thing I want to do is cut up a little my vegetables for both soups. A little bit of celery. One there, and one for the other soup. And some carrots. It's funny, I was asked to think about like a tie-in with my food and, sort of like an inspiration I had from, being at the Michener Museum. And I thought about this time. In 1999, there was an exhibit at the Michener that I saw called Soup to Nuts, and the artist was Andy Warhol, and of course it featured a lot of his Campbell soup cans. And I had trained at a restaurant called Lebec Fin in Philadelphia under George Perrier, who's a master saucier from France. And one of the first things I learned how to do, because I was basically his manservant every day, so I would do all his prep work and I'd run around and he'd scream and curse at me. But one of the first things I learned how to do was make sauces. And one of his real true genius, I mean, there was a lot of things that he was brilliant at, but his real true genius was mostly in the soups, sauces, stocks, anything to do with things like that. This is why he was a master saucier. So it really became kind of a true love of mine. And so, and funny enough, we used to make these spectacular soups at Lebec Fin. Not surprising, it's a 5-star French restaurant, so most of the things we did were spectacular. But so we used to make these wonderful soups, and every year Campbell's Soup would have a big, board meeting, and they'd invite all their, I don't know who was there, but it was like hundreds of people that they'd have these big meetings, and they would have Lebec Fin make gallons of our soup that they would then compare to theirs. And I don't know how they actually did that, because I mean, most of their soups were kind of vile, compared to what we were doing. I mean, I don't even know why you would want to make that comparison. It would make me depressed. And if I was the owner of Campbell's Soup and I tasted soup from Lebec Fin and then I tasted the soup from, Campbell's, I would probably just want to shoot myself. Or maybe they thought it was really good. I don't know. Maybe they thought the Lebec Fin stuff was no good. But either way, all those things kind of came to me, and I love that. I love the Warhol pictures of the soup cans and all those kind of artistic ways of looking at things, and he was very big on that industrial kind of looking, whatever it is. Anyway, so it was very inspirational for today, because it was a nice tie-in, and I was actually at the Michener when they had that, and I know it was 100 years ago, and I'm sure maybe they've done other things since. But and I do go to the Michener, but when I think about the food things, I always think about things that sort of like come together with whatever horrible things happen in my head. So anyway, so that was my inspiration for doing the soups today. So I thought soups, and I'm doing a lot of soups, and so kind of shilling for my business a little bit, of course. I mean, because why wouldn't I? But I think that my strength over the years from working under Chef Perrier was really in like him, like the soups and the sauces and stocks, and I have a real love for it. So when I make the stocks, or God forbid, bone broths, I know that it's an excellent product. Not that, okay, I'll pat myself on the back. So anyway, I have some scallion scraps, I'll throw that in there. So making the base for the soups, let's start with some basic vegetables. Carrot, celery, onion goes in. A little bit of onion scraps, why not? I'll throw that in there, don't waste anything. And another one. We'll save that for something else. I'll just throw that in my stock pot. Oh, forgot my garlic. Sorry about that. A little bit of garlic here, a little bit of garlic here. All right, and a little onion here. And some onion here. And we'll take them over to our pot. This will be my asparagus. And this one will be my lobster. And I'm gonna do some mushrooms. So I have a portobello sandwich on the menu, so I saved the stems because only an idiot would not save beautiful stemmy products like this that I could use for my soups. Because I'm not going to use it for a sandwich, but it's perfect for the soup. But it still has a nice mushroomy flavor. I apologize in advance for any of my customers who've been to my classes and expecting like my full thing, but you know, I was asked to behave myself and come in at like a PG rating today, so bear with me. All right. Now, I need some tomatoes I'm going to add to the lobster, but I don't need that right away because I want to caramelize my vegetables. Very important. Very important to caramelize the vegetables. That way I can build some flavor and, you know, make it sort of rich and give the soup real depth. So I don't want to add the tomatoes yet because then the water comes out and then I'm not caramelizing them, just steaming. So, but I'll cut them up right now. Add to the lobster in a little bit. All right, set that aside. For the lobster, we need lobster. So we need to dismantle these little creatures. I'll use the tail meat. I'll save the tail meat to use for garnish. The claws I'm going to throw right in there and use that for flavor. And the tails I'll throw into my boiling water. The lobster heads. This one cut up a little bit. Get all the flavor into the pot. Probably don't want any rubber bands in the soup, so we'll remove those. You know what, we'll cook this one too. And like the tomatoes, we don't want to put the lobster in yet because You want to caramelize vegetables first, and there's some water that's going to come out in the lobster, so we'll wait on that. All right, then we need potatoes for the asparagus soup. Actually, let's back up. Let's do butternut squash first, because the board's already lobstery. That way I don't have to change my board yet. So I need to cut up some butternut squash for the soup. I want to stir my vegetables. And my lobsters are cooked, so I'm going to take those out. All right, so I like to separate the butternut squash, the shaft from the ball end. Makes it easier to work with. That way I can stand them up. Just peel them with my knife. All right. Lot of squash. Let's stir my vegetables. All right, with the ball end, you have to take out the seeds, which is why you want to find your squash that are more shaft dominant.
More waste product in this end than there is in the shaft end.
Give my vegetables another stir. Caramelizing nicely. Not yet. don't have to be particularly small, but the smaller they are, the faster they'll cook. So it's not a bad idea to cut them down a little bit. These parts. I'm going to add the lobsters to the caramelized vegetables. Let them cook a little bit. All right, a couple more pieces. All right, set that aside for a minute. Flip my board over. Now I want to prepare my asparagus for the soup. So for the asparagus, there's the good side and the bad side. The good side, these nice tender pieces that people like to eat, are perfect for the garnish in the soup in the end. So I like to chop those up real fine. And then use the stemmy ends, the stalky stuff, for making the soup. Really about using the whole thing. I mean, you have to be like a total crazy person to be putting the good stuff in to making the actual soup part. Usually you'll save this stuff, you'll use like this part instead of like, you know, in the summertime you're grilling, you're doing whatever, you could grill off this part of the asparagus. Most people throw away this end, but instead of throwing away the end, you just save a bunch of them until you get enough and then you make soup out of it. Or sauce or some kind of vinaigrette. There's all sorts of things to do instead of wasting. All right. Oh, add the tomatoes to the lobster. right, so now I'll throw my asparagus stems in. Stir it. And I'm going to add my chicken stock. That's just a light chicken stock, and I'm going to add some of my really rich chicken stock as well. Set this aside. Stir my lobster. All right, I need potatoes for my asparagus soup. That's going to give it some nice, thick and rich body and add a little bit of flavor. Couple more. All right, clear off my board so I can chop up my potatoes. All right, stir my lobsters. Chop up my potatoes. Nice medium size chop. All right, potatoes right in. And I'm going to add a little more chicken stock. Just want to cover those potatoes by a little bit and let it cook. All right, the lobsters are looking really great right now. So I'm going to add, what am I going to add? Oh, I'm going to add, what am I going to add? I'm going to add my squash. And my squash. And I made some mussel stock, which I'll add in now. And I'm going to add some cream, just a little bit. heavy cream. All right, that's full, that's full. Good. All right, do a little garnish for my lobster soup. The tails are real easy. I just take them and I give them a squeeze and I rip off the little end and then I just pull it open like that. The knuckles, elbows, arms, whatever, just squish them, pull them apart. Get the meat out. Then I take my peeler, I dig out the other piece. The claw is a little trickier. So you want to try and snap this just a little bit and then wiggle it because you want to try and get out the little filament on the inside. So that's important that that comes out. Now it would be nice if I got the thumb out, but sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe I'll get it. There it is, little finger. Then I take this, I take the back of my knife, and I just smack it and crack it. Smack it and crack it. All right, place this up. Put my lobster meat in the bowl. Get out a little bit of tomato. Somewhere. There you go. I'm just going to use the outer leaves of the tomato. That way I can have nice tomato flavor, tomato texture without all the tomato water and the seeds on the inside, so I don't have to compensate when I'm seasoning it or make my thing too wet. I'm just going to dice it nice and pretty, mix it in with the lobster. There's a rule. Pretty food tastes better than ugly food. So you want to take some time so when your finished product is presented to the person that's eating it, it looks like something they want to eat. It'll actually make the flavor even better. So people eat with their eyes, and that's just the absolute truth. People that don't believe in the food, pretty food tasting better, it's because they've only maybe eaten ugly food, or maybe that's all they know how to cook. But I'm telling you that from vast years of experience, you definitely want your food to look beautiful, taste incredible, and you want it to hit as many senses as possible. There's a lot that goes into tasting food. It's not just your tongue. All right, what else do I have to put in here? Anything else? Anything else? A little watermelon radish, why not? Get a little crunch. Slice it nice and thin. and just dice it. All right, and maybe a little, have any? A little bit of cucumber. Just going to use the outsides for the beautiful green and the crunch. And dice this too. Mix that up. All right, do that there. For asparagus, just take a couple, 3 stalks. All right, like that. And, oh, I know. A little bit of sour cream. Watch her. All right. And a little bit of lemon. And let's see. I'll put it in a little squeezy bottle. All right, so now we're back. Took a little break. Soups were cooking on the stove, and so now we're gonna puree them and strain them and finish them, season them. All right, so first I'm gonna do the asparagus. Oh, no, that's a lie. First thing I'm gonna do is add heavy cream to the asparagus. A little bit of heavy cream. And I'm going to put a lid on it, bring it to a boil. Meantime, we'll puree the lobster. All right. A little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, very important, always, 100% of the time, well, 99% of the time, strain your soups. Strain your soups, strain your stocks, strain your sauces. It's just like the visual aspects of any type of eating or dining experience. texture is going to be key. There's really, flavor is fourth thing in line in your senses when you're tasting something. So you walk into a place and the smells are the first thing that hits you. You go, oh my God, what's that smell? I can't wait to eat whatever that smell is. It smells delicious. Then you see it. And the food should be visually attractive so that it looks appetizing and it looks like something you want to eat. After that, you put it in your mouth, but before you taste it, texture. And if you get some weird, floaty, nasty stuff in your mouth and the texture isn't right, it's going to take away from the finished product. So you want to strain your soups. Just strain out whatever's there. Now, I know some people are like, I like hearty soups. I want the soup hearty. I like to have all the floaty stuff in there. The floaty stuff has given all it has to give. It's just floaty garbage at this point. So if you want like a heartier soup, a richer soup, you could add new floaty things into it. So strain your soups. You don't want to have some nasty texture in your mouth. There. We'll do, and we'll plate it. I'll make my soup nice and pretty. And we'll put a little aged balsamic vinegar, maybe a little drizzle of arugula pesto. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Now finish my asparagus soup. We're going to season it with salt, pepper, and a little bit of chili powder. A little bit of pepper. A little bit of salt. And a little bit of chili powder. Now, I would like to point a proper seasoning. You must always, always, always season to taste. It's a literal statement. You want to season to taste. It's not, seasoned by eye or seasoned by guess. You want to taste the food, and it's not seasoned enough until it's seasoned enough. So when you taste like it's seasoned, that's when you can stop. All right, so now we're going to strain our asparagus soup. And while it's still really hot, I want to add my cut up pieces of asparagus that we did at the beginning, that we set aside, all the asparagus tips. And I'm not going to cook them any other way, except they're just going to steam just real quickly in this last moment. That way you get a little bit of a crunch from the asparagus, and you get like a new asparagus flavor. So you get the very cooked asparagus flavor from the soup that's been cooked for an hour, and then you get the new, just barely steamed, crunchy asparagus. So you get texture and you get flavor. All right. I just sauteed some asparagus tips, which I'll lay in here. And maybe a little bit of drizzle of our sour cream. And why not throw a little balsamic in there just for fun. One at a time. And that's our finished product. I hope you learned something. I hope you had some fun listening to this nonsense, and have a nice night, day.